Thank you for that lovely introduction. My name is Anya Kvitka, and I am a musician. First and foremost, I am a classically trained pianist, but also a singer, entertainer, a teacher. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey. It all began, I feel so old. It all began in 1987 in Moscow, in the USSR, when my grandma's brother played the piano in front of my family on a few occasions. And I remember on each of those occasions how completely mesmerized I became with his ability to play, but also with the instrument itself. So I begged and begged my mom and my dad and my grandparents to get me a piano, which at the time was pretty hard. I can imagine, Mom, so thank you. But my parents and my grandparents actually ended up scrounging up the money and the resources to get one for me. And that's my grandparents in their old apartment, sitting at my very first piano. In 1993, my mom on the left and my dad on the right, my stepdad, kind of broke some pretty big news for me. They said, Anya, we're moving to America. I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. But, you know, and at the time my dad was, and still is, he's a software engineer. So the company at the time was Paragraph that kind of called him over here to be their engineer. And 20 years later, that little company became Evernote, which is pretty cool. The move was definitely an experience, to say the least. My parents and the group of kind of Russian immigrants that traveled all together to work for this company obviously all started hanging out together. I know Russians know what I'm talking about. So I started hanging out with, the parents' kids that, my parents were here with. And one day I noticed my friend was playing piano with this older woman who I, kind of put together at that time was a teacher. So I run up to her and I go, I can play, you want to see me play? I don't know why I wanted so much attention, but clearly I was kind of struggling. And she goes, okay, well, let us finish, and then, come up here, and you'll play. And so they finished, and I waited. She goes, okay, we're done, so come up here and play for me. So I sit down, I look at the piano, and I'm like, yeah, man, this is about to happen. And I look there, and I literally probably stared at it for like 2 minutes, and nothing. I mean nothing. And I looked at her, and I'm like, I don't know, man, I can't remember a thing. I can't. Mind you, I didn't put together, it had been about 7 months since I touched a piano, let alone seen a piano. But this woman became a pretty big influence on my life. She became my piano teacher in this country till I went to college. This is about a year after she took me under her wing. So that was me about 7, I think, and it was clearly Halloween. I didn't dress like that every day, even though I really wanted to. But anyways, I put this picture up because this was the moment when I realized piano wasn't all candies and butterflies. This is my grandmother, who after about a year of us being out here, ended up being able to come visit. And she spent most of her time standing over me just like that in that exact pose, making sure I did not move faster than I needed to. I did not get up out of the piano before I needed to. Every little detail was there. And that very moment was when I became kind of just, I started to hate it, quite honestly. I wanted to hurry up and get my emotions out. I wanted to hurry up and just play. I just wanted to do it, and she wouldn't let me. And I'm very grateful for that, but at the time, put it this way, I did not know what to be grateful for. So I desperately started to hate practicing. So this journey kind of took a turn for me in middle school and high school. Piano became more of a chore, as I'm sure whoever's done piano, you know how it goes. And I started to kind of hang out with more kids, and I became kind of assimilated into American culture, watch TV, listen to the radio, and I remember seeing Don't Speak on TV by No Doubt, and I was like, screw piano, I want to be her. Like, what is she doing right, you know? And I mean, Gwen Stefani, to me, I just honestly wanted to be her. And my dad came home one day with a Tragic Kingdom vinyl. And my parents, once I got home from school, I would be there by myself for a little while, and I would listen to every single song on the album, and I would literally mimic every breath, every riff, every word to, you know, try to get it to sound exactly like Gwen Stefani. So singing definitely started to kind of pop up, I would say, at the end of middle school and through high school. I did keep up with my piano studies because I desperately hate quitting anything, because it just kind of makes me feel defeated, and I hate that feeling. And I kept it going, but my freshman year of college decided I'm just going to take a break from music for a while. That year, I moved far away from home and far away from music, and it was probably the smartest mistake I have ever made. Because in that year, I got so depressed, I couldn't see myself not going back to music, whether it be piano or singing. And I decided to listen to kind of what my grandmother used to teach me when she would stand over me, and my teacher, and my mom. I decided to take the hard way. I decided I would go to UC Santa Cruz, transfer, and not do, sing as well, kind of, that was always there for me, it was easier for me. But I would put so much dedication into piano, and I made that conscious decision. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just do it and see what happens when I actually want to. When I actually want to face my demons, when I actually want to sit there practicing 4 hours a day and just every time repeating the measure, you know, for literally hours to get it. And mind you, I wasn't the quickest learner either. So I did that, and every year I was in Santa Cruz, I won first place because I practiced 4 hours a day, every single day. And this, at the end of my kind of tenure there, kind of became closure for me. I also apparently became computerized. It was, you know, I worked on that a really long time. No, but I promise you that was me. And that really did become closure for me. And I kind of realized at that point that I had really kind of conquered certain demons within myself. Now, after college ended, I kind of said, okay, well, now that I have closure with piano, I'm going to kind of do the same thing with singing and see what happens, because that was easier for me. I enjoyed it more, even despite, you know, my college experiences with piano. So fast forward a couple years to the beginning of 2013. I had spent the first 2 weeks in January with my guitarist in LA, recording in Atlantic Record Studios for David Guetta. I was writing songs for him and recording them to put, you know, to demo to him. And some of you might know him. He's probably one of, if not the biggest electronic music DJ producer in the world right now. My band and I, the same year, played Shoreline Amphitheater's biggest show in their entire history, which was insane. It was BFD, so shout out to Live 105 for that. And just a few weeks ago, I went to LA to write songs, again via Atlantic Records, with Tommy Costner, most famous for co-penning Eminem's biggest record, The Real Slim Shady. I'm sure some of you guys remember. And I was sitting right there at his house in his studio at a piano that was played from everybody from Ray Charles to Stevie Wonder to Billy Joel in RCA Studios in New York. He had gotten that piano over there. And I realized how much of an impact piano and that kind of struggle really had on me, and how if I hadn't gone through that throughout my whole life, not just, you know, a couple years, I probably wouldn't be sitting right there at this man's house. And I realized that the impact that I want to make, or at least I want to try to make, is through what I do now, the other half of the time, which is teach kids classical piano. So everything kind of came full circle for me. I teach these kids, and I tell them constantly, actually they just had a recital this morning, they all did really well. But I tell them constantly, you don't come to my class to learn music. And they all look at me kind of bewildered, like, what is she talking about? Yes, I do. I'm like, no, you don't. You come to my class to get rid of your inner demons and to fight them and to keep fighting them. And I do this, mind you, through their tears, and I can see that they hate me in that moment. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I just have to put that aside. That's the really hard part about my job. But I tell them every single day probably that they're there to fight their inner demons. And some of them don't understand. They're young. But others, they cry, but I can see it kind of seeping in to them. And I think there's kind of no better way to close this talk than to quote Nelson Mandela, do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. So I entitled this talk The Climb because the way that I think anyone is truly capable of impacting the world in a great way is by experiencing failure and being able to constantly keep getting back up. And I think that is the hardest lesson in life, to be honest with you. And I hope to, I really hope that what I do, whether it's performing or teaching, kind of helps people do that. So thank you, and we'll close with a song. This song is by one of my favorite artists, Kimbra. Right.
Boom, 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 yeah. 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 Boom, boom, won't you settle down? Settle down. So we could settle at a table. Table for two. Won't you wine and dine with me? Settle down. Say, I wanna raise a child. I wanna raise a child. Won't you raise a child with me? Raise a child. So we could call her Nebraska. Nebraska Jones. She'll have your nose just so bold. Hey, I wanna settle down. I wanna settle down. Won't you settle down with me? Settle down. I remain until the big goes. I start with you. Monday morning, sweet talking on the
wanna take you far from the city lights and down deep into the dark. Says stars so bright, yeah, stars so light. Keep him by my side tonight. Stars so bright, yeah, stars so light. Keep him by my side. I wanna settle down. Say, I wanna settle down. Baby, there's no need to run. I'll treat you well. Said stars so bright, babe. Stars so light, babe. Keep him by my side tonight, yeah. Stars so bright, baby. Stars so bright. Keep him by my side. Thank you.